Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our January 2021 Nature 101 program, Bark and Branches. My name is Paige Engelbrektsson, and I am the Nature Center Education Specialist for the Highlands Biological Foundation, which supports natural history research and education in the Southern Appalachians, primarily here at the Highlands Biological Station through programs like this one. If you are not familiar with our Nature 101 programs, in the off-season every month we take a natural history question, topic, or challenge and dig into it a little bit. And today's topic is winter tree ID, which is definitely a challenge for some of us, myself included. So today we're going to focus on a few key things to look for and a few quick tips to identify some particular trees. It's not exhaustive, it is not very extensive, but hopefully it'll give you a better feel for what to look for and how to go about doing some winter tree ID. And we're going to be doing it in the form of a challenge with our winter interns, but more on that later. For the first part, we're going to focus on a few key things to look for before we begin that. When we are talking about winter tree ID, there's two kinds of trees that we can look at in the winter. We can look at trees that have no leaves, that have lost them and are called deciduous trees, or we can look at trees that have needles remaining that are called coniferous trees or evergreens. Those are going to be a separate subject for another time. This time around, we are looking at our deciduous trees, the ones that have lost the leaves that usually make my life identifying them so much easier. So when we look at a deciduous tree in the winter, it can be a little intimidating if you're me or you're like me, and there are a few key things to look for. Now, I've got two examples here. So if we imagine both of these being on their respective trees, when we look at a tree in winter, we're looking at three things. We're looking at the branching pattern, the buds, and the bark. One, two, or three of those can usually help us get them down to a good group. When I say branching pattern, I am referring to how the twigs come off of the main stem. And there are two primary types. Here on this particular example, we have one on the right, then one on the left, one on the right, and then the end of the twig. In this one, in contrast, we have two that are paired. They are directly opposite each other instead of alternating. These are the two main branching patterns that you can find when you're looking at deciduous trees and shrubs. This is called alternate. This is called opposite. Opposite is actually pretty unique. So if we have an opposite tree, that narrows it down really well. And I'll give you some more information on that at the very end of the program. Alternate is much more common. So if we find an alternate tree, we can go to the buds, which are the structures at the end of the twig where the leaves, or in some cases the flowers for next year, will come out of. In this one, for example, you can see that they are clustered together, and that will be helpful for one of our plants later. In some plants, for example, there's only one at the end. And also the particular shape, size, and even color of the bud can help you identify specific trees. So we've got the branching pattern opposite each other or alternating. We've got the buds, and then on specific trees, we can look at the bark, and that will come up in some of our examples for the challenge later. But are you guys ready? We're gonna get started. All right, so with me here today to assist, we have our wonderful station winter interns. Please say hello.
Hi.
All right, and your name, sir?
Ben.
Excellent.
Mary.
Brilliant.
Lizzie.
All right, are you ready to do some winter tree ID?
Yes.
I'm glad you're excited. But we're going to start the challenge part of this program, and that begins with the bag of mystery. Inside this bag, I have the name of various trees around campus that have no leaves right now. And the interns' challenge, should they accept it, will be to try and identify one of those trees as I pull it out from this bag. Let's see how they do. All right, so I'm reaching in here, and you guys have 30 seconds to find a flowering dogwood. Go! All right, so Mary, our first contestant, tell me, why did you pick this tree?
Well, you see, this tree has this lovely alternating branch pattern. was just bringing me that feeling.
I am sorry to tell you, flowering dogwoods, and in fact all dogwoods except for alternate dogwood, have opposite branching patterns. Let's go to our next contestant. All right, Lizzie, tell me, why did you pick, do I know what this plant is? I do! Why did you pick this plant?
I picked this plant because all the other plants did not look like dogwoods. We did see this lovely label, which makes us sure that it's not dogwood. So I accept my losing position.
I am sorry to inform you that this is not a dogwood. This actually has a whirling growth pattern.
Oh.
If you look at the end of the branches, there are multiple twigs coming out from a single location. Thank you for playing, and we'll go to our next contestant if I can find him. All right, Ben, can you please tell us why you have selected this shrub?
I thought dogwoods had like opposite twigs, and this seems to have that, and it's a flowering dogwood, so these things look like they might have been flowers.
Oh, interesting. So yes, you have selected a shrub that does have that opposite pattern. Well done there. This might be a seed pod.
Yeah.
Good thought process there. I'm noticing a few more up here. Fascinating. I will give you one clue. This is not a dogwood, because if we look at the end of the plant, what we will see on part of the plant that's actually living are buds, which are where next year's leaves are going to come from. Not having any luck right now. And on dogwoods, they look like onion bulbs. And I'm not seeing any of those here. So opposite, yes. Dogwood, no. So we are looking for a tree, a small tree, but still a tree, that has opposite branch patterns, onion-shaped buds at the end of its twigs, and dogwood can be identified by its bark too. Let's see if we can find one to highlight that. Let's see if we can. All right, we have selected another small tree. Let's take a look. What are the branching patterns? Can we tell?
Looks opposite.
It is indeed opposite. Look at the ends of the twigs. What do we see?
Onion-shaped buds.
Onion-shaped buds. And you know what the biggest giveaway for me is? This sign right down here that says dogwood. This is a flowering dogwood, which, again, these onion-shaped bulbs are really distinctive. And they also have this kind of curling hand-like edge. But the other part about dogwoods is, if you look closely at the bark, you can see they seem like small scales, kind of hexagonal scales stitched together. This is something you'll find across most dogwoods, and it is a good indicator. So we can look at the branching patterns, the buds, and the bark to identify a dogwood. All right, 0 points to everybody except for the dogwood. Let's try again with another tree. Thank you for playing. All right, we are back here with the bag of mystery, and I have just pulled out a magnolia. You have 30 seconds to find a magnolia tree of any species. All right, time. You guys might need to let me know where you are. Okay, let's go to our first contestant. Getting way back in the weeds, unafraid to go bushwhacking off the beaten trail. All right, Lizzie, please tell me.
Sorry.
Tree down here. Okay, hold on a second. Please tell me why you have selected this tree.
I selected this tree because the leaves are long and they're still green, and I think it looks like a magnolia.
Excellent. Well, I am sorry to tell you that magnolias are actually deciduous, which means they've all lost their leaves at this point in time.
Oh, no.
What we are looking at here is a rhododendron, one of the 3 species we have here on the plateau. So good instincts. The magnolia leaves are certainly a noticeable part where they are in leaf. This is not one of them. Thank you for playing.
Better luck now.
those of you who may have seen the 4 species of magnolia we have here in our garden will know the size of the leaves can actually be quite impressive. There's one that we have at the very entrance to the garden called an umbrella magnolia for, I would imagine, the size of their leaves. I believe they are the largest leaves we have in the garden, if not in the plateau. So if you are wandering out and about, you will see cucumber and Fraser. We also have big leaf and umbrella here, but I don't believe you will find those commonly elsewhere. All right, to our next contestant. All right, Ben, so please show me. This is the one?
I think so.
Brilliant. Okay, can you tell me why you have selected this plant?
I was pretty sure that magnolias have this alternate branching pattern like this one has.
Excellent. So, yes, magnolias do have alternate branching patterns, but I will give you a clue.
Ooh.
Magnolias have very thick twigs and stems, like the size of your thumb almost.
Okay.
So, this is devil's walking stick given the thorns on it, but the size of this twig is more representative of what a magnolia looks like.
Okay.
Little and skinny like this is something else entirely.
All right.
Don't ask me which one. All right, and to our last contestant, who I believe is down here. Other side of the garden. Oh, for reference, this is a magnolia leaf. So you can see it is larger than the size of your face. Quite large. All right, Mary, our third and final contestant in this round. You have selected a quite sizable tree. Give everybody a glimpse at that. We're noting the sapsucker holes on the trunk here. A lot of dead branches, but some live ones too. Okay, excellent. Mary, please tell us why you selected this plant.
This plant spoke to me because it's very big. It has these alternating branch patterns and these cute little buds.
Ooh, so I'm gonna hone in. Alternating is the right direction to go. And these buds are quite distinctive. So they're dark, kind of like paintbrush tips or arrowheads. I'm looking at the thickness of this twig. It's pretty large compared to the other ones. And the alternate branch pattern, this is indeed a magnolia. Well done! You have won this round of Guess That Tree. So if you are looking for a magnolia out and about, the bark is not very distinctive, but you want to see just how thick all of these twigs are. That is very characteristic of magnolias. Buckeyes have a similarly thick twig to them, but they have an opposite branching pattern. So if you see alternate with these big thick twigs and these dark kind of paintbrush-like buds, you were looking at one of our magnolias. Well done. All right, we are back here with a bag of mystery. And you all will have 30 seconds to find a member of this genus, this group. I will give you a hint. It is a deciduous tree, but there is one individual in this vicinity that still has its leaves on. You are looking for an oak. You have 30 seconds. Go. All right, and we are heading over to our first contestant of this round, who has chosen a tree that does indeed still have dead leaves on it. Interesting choice. I applaud your use of it. All right, so Mary, can you please tell us why you have selected this particular tree?
Well, like you said, it still has the leaves.
Yes, and do you know the name for this particular phenomenon?
No.
So when trees retain their leaves, even after they've died, it's called marcescence, and it appears in a few species. And you have selected one of the species that is not an oak. So if we look here, we see an alternate branching pattern. That's typical for both oaks and, if we take a look at the sign, beeches. So beeches have these very ribbed, toothed leaves that are usually fairly small. They're usually less than the size of your hand. That extreme ribbing and the lack of any lobes of any kind tell me that this is an American beech. Also that silvery bark, but that's not 100%. So you have selected a tree that does indeed exhibit marcescence, but it is a beech, not an oak. Good play, next time. All right, let's go to our next contestant. All right, Ben, so I see you have selected a tree without leaves. Please explain. Why did you select this one?
I did see a few leaves on this tree.
Ah!
I knew that oak trees produce acorns, and there's acorns all around this tree, so I figured it might be an oak tree.
Brilliant. So you have used contextual clues, and I will agree, there are certainly quite a few acorns in this vicinity. This is indeed an oak, as that nameplate will also tell us. But I think your use of the leaves is great. Let me see if I can find one. So when we compare this to those very small, deeply ribbed, toothed beech leaves that we were just looking at, this is significantly larger, and it has the lobes, these projections that seem to come out of the leaves themselves. That lobed pattern, that also looks symmetrical. If you folded this together, it was almost like a watercolor that's been folded in half while it's wet. That is typical of an oak leaf. Several different species will differ in size, how pointy they are, how pointy they aren't. We can go with this even, which is much skinnier, but still see those significant lobes. This is also an oak leaf. And the acorns, so that the branching pattern is, any guesses, Ben?
Alternate.
Correct, alternate. And oaks also have clustered buds. So if you look at the ends of their twigs, you'll see multiple buds clustered together. That's another good oak indicator. So you have indeed picked a oak. Congratulations, well done. But we have to go to our third and final contestant, who I think is down this way, to see if we have a clear winner or not. As I try not to die. All right, so Lizzie, let's take a second to look at this tree that you've selected. Here's a fantastic branch that's showing an example of that marcescence. And all the way up through the crown as well. So Lizzie, why did you pick this tree?
Okay, so I really like the snowy terrain over here. I see this smooth bark, and then there's little speckles of white on it. There's alternating branches on the big branches, and then it still has its leaves on it.
Yes, so if you notice on this oak compared to that beech, and I know there we go, it's a little less backlit now. It's not that silvery gray color, it's a nice brown. The alternating pattern is similar with beeches, but if we take a look, and I'll see if I can zoom in on some of those leaves, you can see already how deeply toothed they are. That is a classic oak leaf pattern. We can't look very closely at the ends of the twigs to see what the buds look like, but those leaves, even from a distance, tell me that this is indeed an oak. So we have a tie! Well done, everybody! Congratulations! I did want to take a moment and show you guys, I grabbed this off the ground. I think it comes from one of our red oaks, as opposed to the black oak that Ben chose. But you can really see how these buds are all clustered together at the end of the branch. So, classic oak. We are taking a quick pause here for a commercial break, which is to say, if you are interested in doing winter tree ID, buy something that will help you, like a winter tree finder. This one is a little hard to see with all the glare on it, but these are really cool because they have what we call dichotomous keys, which are basically yes/no questions, where they start off by saying, okay, well, does your tree have leaves on it? Does it have needles? Or does it have no leaves at all? Does it have an opposite pattern or a branching alternate pattern? And then from there, it'll help you work through specifics to figure out which tree specifically you were looking at, as opposed to, needing to rely on the signs around it, as some of us who work here might have to. We also have a version of this that I've drafted for the Botanical Garden that's washed out right now, but it's much simpler, and it's just a guide to 20 of the common tree and shrub species and groups that are specific to our Botanical Garden. Again, that yes, no. Does it show this? Well, then it's this. If it's not, if it doesn't, then it's something else entirely. So there are things that can help you do this if you are interested in doing it more on your own. I cannot recommend them enough. Not every tree you're going to come across will have a name tag. We have switched locations to the sudden death round of our What Tree Is That game show, wherein we are now in the moss garden. We have a 3-way tie for winner, which is impressive. I can applaud all of your instincts and deductive reasoning. And we are going to pick the last and final tree to determine who is a winner, unless we have to go to a second sudden death round. We'll see. All right, and they're going to have 30 seconds to find a birch. All right, everybody playing along at home, any bets as to who the winner's gonna be? All right, and we're gonna start with our first contestant right here. Let's take a look at this big old craggly tree that she has selected. All right, Mary, can you please explain why you picked this tree?
It was the bark for me. I just thought it seemed birch-like.
Excellent. Can you give me a little bit more detail than that?
It kind of peels off and it's papery.
Excellent. So you're suggesting that the bark is a key characteristic of a birch?
Yes.
You would be correct. So horizontal peeling bark, like this is one of the dead giveaways for a birch. They are opposite pattern. We're a little bit too high up to see that easily right here. And they have these little stubby Christmas-like projections on the branches, if you're close enough to see that. But if you just see this bark, you know you indeed have a birch. Well done. So 1 point to Mary. Sudden death round. Let's see. All right, our next contestant, Lizzie.
Hello.
Excellent. So let's take a look at your selected tree. Noticing that it's a little bit too high to see most of the twigs, the buds rather, but we can see it has an alternate branching pattern, very similar to the one that Mary picked. All right, can you explain to us why you picked this tree?
Yes, so the reason was the alternating branches and also this bark, as Mary said. You can tell that it's really easy to peel off and it's really white and thin.
Excellent. So Lizzie, congratulations. You are now tied again for first place because this is in fact another birch. As they have both identified, that peeling pattern is very characteristic. We go to our third and final contestant, if I can find him, to see if we need to have another 3-way sudden death tie. All right, Ben. Oh my goodness. Hold on a second. Let's just give the audience a moment to appreciate. We see some very shiny bark. We see way up here some alternating stubby Christmas-like branches. All right, Ben, can you tell us why you picked this plant?
Yes, I know that birches usually have this lighter white or yellow bark, and it's usually really smooth, shiny, and you can usually peel it off.
All right, so let's take a close look at this bark because I am noticing some small differences. This is much more yellowy and satiny than the white bark of the other birches. I think this is in fact a birch, so well done. We do have a 3-way tie again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we have a 3-way tie for winner of What Tree Is That? Congratulations to our contestants who have made it this far and done so well for not having much experience with winter tree ID. Congratulations! All right, folks. So thank you to our winter interns for participating in our game challenge. I had fun, if you couldn't tell. I think they had fun, and I hope that you did as well. I did want to circle back and touch on some of the things that we talked about because I know they got a little bit jumbled when I got excited filming this. So for those trees, we looked at 1, 2, or 3 of those major identifiers: the branching patterns, the buds, or the bark. And for some of them, like the dogwood, the branching pattern was critical. We needed an opposite tree. As I mentioned before, opposite trees are actually, and shrubs, are not common. You can actually break them down into 5 groups: maples, ashes, dogwoods, excepting the alternate dogwood that I mentioned, which nature always has to throw a weird one in, buckeyes, and viburnums, which are a kind of shrub. If you see a winter tree or shrub with opposite branching patterns, it's going to be one of those 5. Alternate, many, many more of those. So you're going to want to go to things like the buds, as we saw with the oaks, which was one example. If you noticed at the beginning, clustered buds are important, or with the magnolias, the size and the color and the shape were good giveaways as well. And finally, bark, as I mentioned, we did touch on, particularly like a little bit with the beech. That silvery gray can be characteristic, but the birches, I mean, you see that peeling horizontal papery bark and you know what you're looking at. There's a shrub in the garden called sweet clethra, which has this peeling vertical cinnamon colored bark, and that you see that and you know exactly what you're looking at. So it's not a complete list of all of the winter trees and shrubs that you may see here in the Botanical Garden. It's more just an example of how you can go about looking for those and some of the things that can, unique characteristics that you can use. Hopefully it was fun. Hopefully it was educational. Hopefully it gives you the confidence to go forth and learn how to do this yourself or relearn. I know for myself, I have to keep checking back in every winter. Okay, the leaves are all off the trees. I got to remember how to identify the trees without them. It does help when they have name tags, though. But thank you guys very much, so much for joining us. If you're interested in more programming for our Botanical Garden, we have our Garden in Every Season monthly tour on the first Monday of the month. So it's coming up in February. Rachel Martin, our station horticulturalist, will be running that. She'll actually film it and this will premiere it at 11:30 on that first Monday. She'll be there to do live commentary, and I'm really excited to see what she has noticed about the Botanical Garden in this last month. We will also have another nature one in February, probably all about birds, because we have a big bird count weekend, the weekend before the day. So keep your eyes out for more information on that. And if you'd like updates, reminders, links to recordings, you can sign up for our e-blast at highlandsbiological.org, where you get weekly updates on pretty much all of the above, fundraisers and your support and what we're able to do because of that. Because all of this, everything that you're seeing in this program and more, is made possible through the foundation. If you already support us through donations or memberships, thank you very much. It is very much appreciated. If you guys have comments, suggestions, questions, things you think we could do for programming in the future, please let us know. Where I am personally always looking to improve and try new things like this game format, which, we'll see if we do it again or not. But love to hear your thoughts because this is all for you guys. So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in future programs, and I hope that you take care. Bye.